One name keeps surfacing in the Epstein files that absolutely no one saw coming. It isn't a career politician or a shadowy Wall Street billionaire. Instead, it's someone who has been a constant presence in your living room for nearly 20 years. Someone whose entire public identity, a multi-billion-dollar empire, was built on a single, simple word: kindness. But as the digital ink dries on millions of pages of newly released documents, the connection between this beloved figure and Jeffrey Epstein's world appears to go much deeper than a simple name in an address book. To understand how we got here, we have to look past the headlines and into the actual mechanics of the 2026 document drop. A release so massive it has fundamentally broken the public's trust in the kind faces we see on screen. Before we can even talk about the names, we have to talk about the language. When the Department of Justice was forced to release nearly 7 million pages of FBI memos and private messages under the Transparency Act, investigators didn't just find names, they found a lexicon. Imagine a world of high-powered, health-obsessed men suddenly becoming fixated on junk food. Inside these documents, the word pizza appears 911 times. It isn't used in the context of a late-night office snack or a catering order. We see emails referencing pizza radiating a soft glow and looks of bliss. Forensic experts and lawmakers like Anna Paulina Luna have gone on record stating that this isn't food, it's a euphemism. But it's the word cannibal that has truly sent shockwaves through the investigation, with 52 mentions in the files, including direct exchanges between Epstein and his inner circle about videos that Ghislaine Maxwell claimed she couldn't stomach. The reality of what was being traded behind closed doors is starting to look less like a social circle and more like a predatory network. This is the dark backdrop against which every celebrity name must now be viewed. When Attorney General Pam Bondi released the list of 300 politically exposed persons, the internet went into a frenzy. Names like Bill Clinton, Elon Musk, and even Barack Obama were splashed across social media. But there is a vital distinction the public often misses. Being in a media digest isn't a crime. Being in an address book isn't a conviction. However, for a select few on that list, the paper trail isn't just a mention, it's a conversation. Take Howard Lutnick, current U.S. Secretary of Commerce. While he publicly claimed he cut ties with Epstein years ago, the files tell a different story. A 2012 email shows Lutnick casually inviting Epstein to dinner, specifically mentioning that 8 children were on his boat. Then there is Richard Branson, whose personal letters to Epstein months before his arrest didn't just discuss business, they discussed invitations to bring your harem. When you see these names alongside the $5 million gift Epstein left to the daughter of French cultural giant Jack Lang just 2 days before his death, a pattern emerges. This wasn't a list of acquaintances, it was a list of people who operated within a system of total immunity. And that brings us back to the face of kindness herself, Ellen DeGeneres. For 19 seasons, Ellen told the world to be kind to one another. But in late 2024, the mask didn't just slip, it fell off. When Ellen and her wife Portia de Rossi abruptly fled the United States for a rural estate in the UK, the official story was political frustration. But the timeline tells a much clinical story. The move happened just as the Sean Diddy Combs investigation began to metastasize. Suddenly, an old birthday message from Ellen to Diddy resurfaced, one where she called him Cuddle McNugglestuff and cryptically told her millions of followers, "You don't need to know why." When Elon Musk boosted that post with a single silent emoji, the implication was clear. The exit wasn't about an election, it was about an impending collapse. The Epstein files confirm that Ellen's show and brand were constantly being monitored and shared within the Epstein media digests. While there is no smoking gun email directly between the two, the public is no longer looking for a single document. They're looking at the company she kept. Diddy, a man now facing charges for freak-offs and systemic trafficking, sat on her stage and looked her in the eye, telling her she was invited to all his parties. Ellen's defense? She laughed and said she never goes. But the internet has stopped laughing. Why does the public believe this so fervently? Because we've seen the mean behind the kindness before. In 2020, 36 employees described the Ellen DeGeneres show as a culture of fear. Producers like Hedda Muscat called her a phony and a hypocrite. If she could maintain a fake persona for 2 decades while her staff was petrified, what else was happening behind the scenes of her high society social circle? When you look back at the 2016 interview with a teenage Justin Bieber, where she pressured him about leaked photos and mocked his discomfort, it doesn't look like a joke anymore. It looks like a power dynamic. It looks like the same dynamic we see in the 60,000 tweets Chrissy Teigen deleted in a single night as the Epstein connections began to surface. Trust isn't just dead, it's been incinerated. From Harvey Weinstein to R. Kelly to Diddy, the public has learned that the bigger the public kindness, the darker the private reality. The Epstein files aren't just a list of names, they're a mirror reflecting the most uncomfortable truth of modern power, that the people we were told to love were often the people we should have been most afraid of. While American headlines focus on talk show hosts, the most legally explosive evidence might actually be hidden in the files related to France. Jack Lang, the legendary former French Minister of Culture, has long been a titan of European society. But the 2026 document release didn't just show him as an acquaintance, it showed him as a beneficiary. Buried in the files is a video of Jack Lang personally giving Epstein a private tour of the Louvre, but the paper trail gets much darker. On August 8, 2019, just 48 hours before Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his cell, he signed his final will. Inside that document was a $5 million bequest to Caroline Lang, Jack's daughter. When French investigators began digging, they found an offshore account in the U.S. Virgin Islands allegedly linked to Caroline. Her defense? The money was for art investments, but the timing is impossible to ignore. Why does a man facing life in prison use his final moments of freedom to ensure millions of dollars reach the family of a French politician? Caroline Lang has since resigned from her prestigious role in the French film industry, but the question of what that $5 million was actually buying remains one of the most guarded secrets in the files. The public's obsession with these files isn't just about what's in them, it's about what people are trying to erase. Take Chrissy Teigen. For years, she was a central node in the Hollywood social web that included Ellen DeGeneres and the elite circles mentioned in Epstein's media digests. But as the investigation into Ghislaine Maxwell intensified, Teigen did something that the internet considers the ultimate admission of panic. She deleted 60,000 tweets in one night. She claimed it was to protect her family from idiots and trolls, but the sheer scale of the purge, digital arson on a massive level, suggests a desperate attempt to scrub a history that she no longer wanted the public to see. When you look at the pizza and cheese codes found in the FBI's 2026 report, and then look back at Teigen's old tweets referencing similar language in jokes about children, the coincidence becomes too heavy to ignore. In the world of high-retention news, there are no coincidences, only patterns. We also have to address the tech giants. Bill Gates and Elon Musk both appear in the files, but in very different ways. While Bill Gates' meetings with Epstein are well documented and led to the collapse of his public nice guy persona years ago, the 2026 files reveal even more. We see emails from Epstein attempting to leverage his knowledge of Gates' private life for influence. Musk, on the other hand, appears in the files as a target. In 2012, Epstein explicitly invited Musk to his island, Little St. James. Musk's response was blunt. A peaceful island experience is the opposite of what I'm looking for. Epstein's follow-up was even telling, noting that the ratio on his island might make his female companion uncomfortable. This ratio is the algo-speak of the elite. It's how they reference the presence of the young women Epstein used as currency. It confirms that the people orbiting Epstein knew exactly what his island was, a place where the ratio was controlled, and where the kindness of the public world didn't exist. The reason these 10.5 million pages have paralyzed the public is simple. For decades, we were told that the world worked a certain way. We were told that the people on our screens were who they said they were. But when you see Howard Lutnick, the man now in charge of American commerce, planning a Sunday lunch on the island with children on his boat, or Leon Black funneling $150 million to a tax advisor who happened to be a convicted sex offender, the illusion of official truth dies.
We aren't just looking for a client list anymore. We're looking for the end of a system where a billionaire can buy a kind reputation while subsidizing a nightmare. The files are open, the names are out, and as the 2026 congressional hearings continue to grill Attorney General Pam Bondi over why some names were redacted while victims' names were left exposed, one thing is certain: the facade is never coming back. If the documents represent the mind of the operation, the physical evidence photos released by the House Oversight Committee in late 2025 represent its heart. Among the 150 images made public, one in particular has frozen the internet: the room with the yellow dentist's chair. It's a sterile, clinical-looking room tucked away in a private residence on a remote island. The photo shows the chair surrounded by strange masks hanging on the wall, a detail that survivors say was part of the psychological conditioning on the island.